Well, shalom, shalom. And I am here. I'm here now, and you're going to wake up because we're going to be talking about the Book of Giants. Got some more details this week, and so we're going to get into that. Okay. Book of the Giants. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready for this? I want to say thank you, by the way, for everybody that's been part of us here at Life of Worship, and thank you for your prayer support, and thank you for your financial support. If you hadn't had an opportunity lately, then to go to Life of Worship Ministries, to our PayPal, or you just go to our website. I'll put it up here. Go to our website, and if you'd like to donate and contribute to the ministry, we certainly appreciate it. Our funds have shrunk back down because we've been paying bills, but we still have a couple more to pay. And then we got to start building up for the rent for the next month. But anyway, if you would like to be part of this ministry and supporting us financially, and I appreciate, again, everybody that has done that, you can go over to Life of Worship Ministries at www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. All one word there. Without any further delay, let's talk about the Book of Giants. Unless there's something else I need to talk about. But the Book of Giants, this is very, very interesting. And, I kind of hit on some of it last week. I actually have a message, and it should be on the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, that I actually talked about the Book of Giants, and I didn't realize that I had done that. And then I found my notes look at that. I've already talked about a lot of this stuff, but it's worth going over again because some of y'all maybe didn't hear that message. But why do I think that the Book of Giants is is interesting? Because that one little verse, when we have that verse over there in Genesis chapter 6, and it talks about the Nephilim, and you think, why does it even mention it? I mean, why in Genesis chapter 6 does it even have to discuss it? Well, part of it is because we have a flood. And why? Well, because these giants were not good guys. Or I don't know if, it never really specifies gender if you've got male giants and female giants. It doesn't really say that. It does say that they are the offspring of the Watchers, these fallen angels, and who had lusted after human women. So we do know that, but we never see anything about the gender of these giants other than in the Book of Giants as well as in the Book of Enoch, because I think it's the first 36 chapters of Enoch, chapters 1 through 36. That part of Enoch is known as the Book of Watchers. So if you want to go pick up the Book of Enoch and read those first 36 chapters, they're a lot of them are just very short chapters. You can really get an idea of who these fallen once heavenly beings are and who they were, and then what happens. And this is where the Book of Giants kind of goes in and also it corroborates the story, so to speak. It was written in Aramaic. And you think Aramaic. Yeah, Aramaic. So that was the language at the time of Yeshua. It was during it's thought that it was actually written down somewhere during those 400 silent years. And we see the fragments of it were discovered with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, I know I mentioned that last week, but when you think, well, why wasn't it written in Hebrew? Well, the language of that area, that common language, which continued on up until the time of Yeshua, was Aramaic. And there's similarities, by the way, with the Aramaic and with the Hebrew and all of that, but that's what they have. So it's an Aramaic version. Could it have been maybe that there was another version before, that there was a version that might have been in Hebrew as well, and then it was rewritten down in Aramaic, and it was the Aramaic version that was found? Those are all questions that I just can't wait to ask. Or probably I picture us like, we got all these questions. Say, okay, I know your questions and I have answers. Let's just all gather around like in this big Coliseum that we're all going to be sitting down and then hear the teacher of righteousness, Yeshua the Messiah, is going to sit there and say, all right, question number one, because this is like top, you're like, what is it? Family Feud, where you have your list. Survey says, here's the top question, 10 questions. Here's the top question. And they all sit around and like, okay, we all had that one. All right. So what's the answer? Well, I don't know where this will fit in the top 10, but I think the whole discussion about giants, that might be in the top 10 for a lot of people out there. I don't know. I don't know if talking about the giants and the fallen ones and all that happened in pre-flood time and post-flood time, I don't know if that's in my top 10 questions. In fact, I don't know if I have cognitively actually thought about, okay, if I've got 10 questions that I really would love to have answers for, what would they be? Enoch. So Enoch had a reputation. And of course, we know that he's like the great grandfather of Noah. And so he's a great grandfather of Noah, and he lived before the flood. And it says that, it talks about how he was not. And so we never hear about Enoch dying. And so many have pondered to think maybe one of the two witnesses could possibly be Enoch. I don't know. It's appointed for man once to die and then the judgment. And then it's like, well, if he never died, then if it's appointed for man to die, then wouldn't he be a candidate for one of the two witnesses who we know that at the end of their ministry, that those two witnesses lie dead in the street for 3 days. So that's why some people think that Enoch might be one of the two witnesses. The verdict's still out, and a lot of good suggestions about who those two witnesses could possibly be. Either way, no matter what direction we're looking at, that's why some people think that Eliyahu might be, because he was witnessed by Elisha being carried up in the chariot. We didn't see him die. No one saw him die. And yet that's why some think it might be Eliyahu and it might be Enoch. Who knows? Possibly so. Can I just say this? It's very interesting because as we've studied out this community of the Yahad, that when Eliyahu was on his way to his departure point, that the prophets came out of the caves to talk to Eliyahu. And do you know who those people were? They're of that community that lived out there in the wilderness. It's close to the Jordan River. They were kind of spread out into different groups. Sandy and I got to go there when we went to Israel, and we went to this lookout point, and they said, now if you look, if you look out across, and you'll see the River Jordan down there in the distance. And down along that side, you see those caves. That's where it's thought that some of these prophets came out to greet Elisha. And that's where Elisha went and crossed over the Jordan River. But it's where Israel crossed over originally. That's when all the archaeologists and all those people that are pretty smart and know the terrain and know those scholars, those academic types, and they look at everything, they think that area specifically was where Joshua and Israel crossed the River Jordan. And so that's where Elisha crossed over to the east side of the River Jordan before he was taken up. So, all right, I digress there, but it's all very interesting because of the time period that they believe that this was written here. So here we've got this whole story going on, and we know who Enoch is now, and he was considered to be a prophet. I mean, after all, it says he walked with Yah, and what other character after Adam do we see that walked with Yah? And so we have this whole idea. We know Enoch did. We know that Abraham was considered a friend of Yah. We have all these dynamic relationships of all of these patriarchs that had this relationship, but he was considered one who walked with Yah. And considering that he lived before the flood, a lot of times, can you think about this? There's such fascination with this Enoch character. And I think, well, I guess that's one of the guys I want to talk to. I want to know what he saw, where he went, who he conversed with. What about these giants? They left him alone because these giants were evil. They were bad. They were really, really bad. We also have that, I think when we go back to the Genesis account, how one of the very strongest statements is how these watchers intermingled with the human females, and their offspring were the giants. And then these giants oppressed humans. And I would even go as far as saying that these angels oppressed humans because they weren't good. They were given an assignment. Why are they called watchers? They were given an assignment to watch over humanity and to be able to guide humanity and to be able to make sure they're staying on course. And they failed in that responsibility. So, and the description of them is that they are wicked. Now, when we go to Scripture and we get a definition of one that is wicked, it's, we always have we conjure up in our minds all these different ideas of what a wicked person is, like someone that goes down the street and grabs somebody from behind and slashes their neck, and that's wicked, right? We all consider that wicked. But according to the Scripture, is one who doesn't follow Torah is wicked. So what were these people? Well, these beings, these creatures, these fallen ones, these are ones who did not follow Torah. They didn't follow the instructions of Yah, and they abandoned their responsibility to be watchers, and then and in that abandonment of that purpose, their mission, then they directed humanity with their own twist. So there's an allusion to the word wicked, where we get the word wicker, that twisted, dried up vine that all gets twisted together to form furniture, for example. So they decided to kind of take things into their own hands and ignore the purposes for which they were called. We're told that Enoch attempted to intercede with heaven on behalf of the wicked angels, but did not have success. And the Book of Giants tells the story. Now, remember last week I was talking a little bit about what they did with the genetic modifications, and they had the 200. Think about this: there were 200 angels that came down, and they were following the lead of Azazel. And they said, "Well, look what Azazel's doing. He's kind of mixing, doing some stuff with the human women. Those human women look pretty good. Why don't we band together? Let's make this bond. Let's make this covenant, and let's go and have some fun." And so in this story, it says 200 of these wicked angels came down, and they they asked for permission from their leader Shemihaza. So Shemihaza is their leader, and they come down, and we begin with the expansion of the story. Shemihaza has two sons, Oya and Haya, like Haya and Oya. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so these two sons, that was really lame, wasn't it? That was really lame, and I please forgive me. So these two sons, Oya and Haya, have fateful dreams. They have some dreams that the dreams you don't forget, dreams that wake you up In fact, you're done sleeping for the night. It's that type of dreams. They're life shaping, life forming, life shocking type of dreams. And I think the shocking part is probably where the emphasis, well, Linda, is no, it was funny. Oh, oh goodness. Ninja Turtle imitation. I never watched a full Ninja Turtle thing. Never did. We have fragments of the Book of Giants, part that's concerned with the fateful dreams, and Enoch's attempt to interpret them, and because they came pleading to him. So because of the fragmentation of it, they really had to work pretty hard to kind of make sure they got into the right order in order to basically tell the story. We got this descent of the angels. Now, they brought havoc with them. They brought havoc with them. And because they brought knowledge to mankind, and that knowledge is not always good. And it wreaked havoc on mankind. It brought great disruption. It brought great evil upon the earth. And therefore, that's why we have the Genesis account. And we know that everything was so wicked, everything was so perverted, everything was so twisted that only Noah and his 3 sons and their wives and Noah's wife were the only ones that would be saved out of it. That's how bad it was. So these fallen angels, they weren't just watching over to help kind of guide mankind. They basically stepped in to rule mankind. I think out of it, this is probably where we get the stories, the myths about Zeus and the Greek gods or the Roman gods, or India has their whole set of gods, and in Persia, they had their whole set, Babylon. So Egypt, they had theirs. I mean, all of this comes out of this time period, all of these myths. We call them myths, but those myths are telling a story that people can understand. And there's similarities between each one of these cultures in their stories, and say, hey, that God over there sounds like the God over here, and they, we can look back and connect the dots over it. But it really seems that these watchers actually took leadership roles. Now, can I throw something in that's very interesting that really goes along with this? Tucker Carlson made a comment in a recent podcast or newscast or streamcast, whatever you want to call it, and I don't remember exactly with whom he was interviewing, but he made a comment about that he believes that our U.S. government and governments in the West are being influenced directly by the fallen angels. That whether these are seen or not seen, or these angels have taken human form and are in high places of power and influence. They're the ones that are in the shadows, that are kind of, you never see, they're never in the news, they're never interviewed, you don't really see them, but we see their spokesman. We see people in think about the senators and the Congress people that you and others, even in other countries that are in their leadership, and you think these people that you do not like to listen to. Well, it's a very, very strong possibility that could some of these be manifesting in human form, fallen angels, or they are the mouthpieces speaking for those in the shadows. Because why would we have such literally wicked policies? For years and years, since I became aware of our culture, I think, why would they do anything that is so out of, common sense says you do that and it's going to bring some type of harm and destruction and chaos and Why would they want to do that? Well, we go back to the book of Giants and we go back to the book of Watchers in Enoch, and then you can see why. You can see how this whole thing is being played out again. I mean, we've had discussions before that it was these fallen angels that brought the technology that of weapons of war, right? In order that showed them how to make steel. It's in the book of Enoch, how to form steel, which could be formed into weapons, and we hear about this technology that was lost during the time of the flood, but apparently before the flood, from all the different myths and all the different stories, we have some types of flying aircraft or flying crafts of one type or another. I mean, why would in the Persian experience of it all, they have these stories and legends about flying carpets, and why is it in India that they have these in old architectural um, facades, fascias, whatever you call them, carved into the rocks. You see these pictures of spacecrafts. We see it in the hieroglyphs of the Egyptians. They've even seen stuff in the Mayan hieroglyphs. All of these different things, and you think, when were these things done? When were they made? And then did they predate the flood? And I would say that a lot of these monoliths and huge structures where they have uncovered, they've been buried in sand or in the jungles or whatever, and they've just been covered up with vegetation, and they discover these things, or they're in digs and they come out and you see the pictures of these flying crafts of one type or another. And I think we should consider this as very, very interesting, to say the least. And I was trying to see if I had a picture of some of those elements in some of the discoveries. I do have this, by the way, talking about the wicked angels. I don't know if you, hopefully you'll be able to see it. Look at this. Can you see that? Am I holding it up well enough? Okay. Bring it over some. Look at that picture right there. I'm going to try to hold it steady. Okay. Go this direction. That is a giant. It's from Indian art, Indian statue. And that giant has a body going across its lap, and he has looks like an intestines that's coming out of the body, and it's going up into his mouth and back down again. I mean, it's pretty gross, but this is some of the things that is in the Indian writings and or in their statues and stuff. This thing's got like multiple hands, and it's holding babies, and it's being served by the people. So that is the Hindu goddess Kali devouring a human being, and so draw the conclusions. These are really wicked, and it's also been it's in the statues, it's in the architecture. Linda, exactly. These 200 angels come, and according to the book of Giants, they consumed everything that the earth produced: the great fish, the birds in the sky, all of the fruit of the earth, all kinds of grain, the fruit of the trees, even beasts and reptiles that they committed sin against. I mean, and all the creeping things of the earth. And then, and if they have these children, they probably taught their children, the Nephilim, to do the same thing. And it says they perform every harsh deed with harsh utterance upon male and female creation and among humanity itself. So think about that picture I just showed you, that they were very demanding, and they used and abused mankind, being that they were persuaded to leave heaven and come to earth. Then what did they do? 200 angels, and then get this, they seized 200 donkeys, 200 asses, 200 sheep, and rams of the flock, 200 goats, 200 beasts of the field from every animal and from every bird, for experiments in inbreeding with humans and all types of for genetic experimentation. But isn't it interesting? 200 angels, and there was 200 of all these other things. And 200 angels, 200 human wives. You can go on from there. But then in the commingling of the seed, they not only experimented with these animals, and animal to animal and that type of thing, which ended up creating probably some very weird creatures that the Book of Giants calls monsters. But it also talks about the mingling of the animal seed with the mortal women. And I mentioned this last week where, like in the Egyptian gods, we got the satyrs. We talked about the minotaurs. We talked about the winged beasts. We talked about Pegasus. Where they mix, they really like trying to mix like horses and birds together. And didn't we also see in Greek mythology, I don't remember which one it was, where there's a man who has wings. And then you think, well, don't we always consider that the watchers or the angels have wings? But where do we get that concept that maybe they had wings? Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was through these genetic mutations that they ended up with some type of man-like creature with wings. But this all comes from all of that time. It's pretty sinister. But out of all this, and how many people did they go through and destroyed? Think about in our modern times. L.A. Marzulli talks about this. And he talks about how he's had so many interviews with people who have been abducted and brought into some type of spacecraft. Now, I'm just go with me on this. I'm not trying to go off in some weird stuff. I'm just saying with these concepts, it's not too far of a leap to think that here back then, all of this highly advanced technology that allowed them to come up and experiment on, and yet we hear about these abductions and these women who find themselves pregnant. It's verified that they're pregnant by doctors, and then 3 months into the pregnancy, there's another abduction, and they find themselves no longer pregnant, and verified by the doctors, and they didn't go have an abortion. They didn't have a miscarriage or anything like that, but somehow whatever was in them was removed, and they didn't lose that baby. It was removed from them. And it makes me wonder what type of additional experimentation is continuing. And L.A. Marzulli talks about how when some of these experiences, and people will have them multiple times, and they come back with their memory wiped, but then still having glimpses of things that have happened, and it's horrifying to them, and yet continues, and they become believers, and they invoke the name of Jesus, or you can say in the book, they invoke the name of Yeshua, and when that happens, the abductions stop. I personally don't have a grid for that, because I don't know anybody that's gone through it. I've never heard anybody's direct testimony, and I haven't purchased the L.A. Marzulli DVDs or any of the different ones Steve Quayle has done or anything like that maybe have recorded these things, and I've never heard anything personally. But when it's happened multiple times, and L.A. Marzulli in his own words, and Steve Quayle in his own words, when they've gone out and they've talked to people, multiple people with the same type of experience, then it's like, you know what? There's got to be there's more to it, but it seems like it connects here, like in the Book of Giants. Well, where these monsters, so let's say we have a Pegasus or a Minotaur or a dinosaur, possibly the dinosaurs, and I know you find dinosaur bones, all over the world, but where do we find them? Where it's like something catastrophic hit them and they died, and we did not get fuel because of the dinosaurs. That's that's hogwash. Can you believe they still teach myth as science in the schools? Oh, okay. But what could it have possibly been that the dinosaurs were a result of the giants doing something genetically that created monsters that wreaked havoc on humanity? I mean, I think about the Allosaurus or the T-Rex or something like that, and or some of these like a Velociraptor. I mean, horrible, mean, vicious creatures. So, but these monsters sought out flesh. They destroyed and they perverted, and they arose lacking in true knowledge because of their abominations. Because of they weren't a creation of Yah. I mean, I always think about what was the creation of Yah like before the fall in the garden. Where the creatures would, every creation, the lions and the tigers and the bears, all of them, they somehow communicated with Adam. There wasn't this fear of mankind like we know of animals today that have a fear of mankind. So could the corruption, could this fear, I mean, Noah was able to gather all these animals up, and we know that this was a divine thing, but these animals came in. Maybe something happened to the animals after the flood, and as the animals dispersed among the earth, perhaps there were some things that triggered in them that they felt, that the animals, felt that they either became predators of humans, or they were very fearful of humans. I mean, after all, when was the last time you caught a bird? That one would just come and sit on your shoulder, and you could pick it up with your finger and hold it. And, they don't do that. They don't do that. But what was it like before the flood? So what was it maybe at the time right before the flood, because of such wickedness in the earth, they created such fear in the animal world, the animal kingdom, that then those genetic markers were in their DNA, that they were shut off in the ark, they were released, and then as they were dispersed, those markers were reactivated. I don't know. Something happened, but I do believe our DNA holds the memory of things. It's of things that are within our past, and connects us to our ancestors. Now, I'm not saying like our ancestors as if, like maybe as if there are spiritual beings that can influence our lives. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the history of our humanity is still connected and has a memory within us. I mean, why do we act or react in certain ways that oftentimes they say, well, you have expression on your face. It looks like your father, or I remember seeing that in your great-great-grandfather or your great-grandfather. When I was a child and he was around, you have that same expression. Why is it our family pictures may hold some of that? And I know part of that is just biological looks because of DNA, but what about that which is kept, that maintains elements of our various actions that we do? All right. Just thoughts for you to chew on, thoughts to consider. Going on here, it seems like this corruption was going over for a long time. It was a great period of time. And that's one of the things that you don't get these abnormal creations overnight. It would have taken what we would call generations. Maybe you might be able to have chickens and in 2 years have an equivalent of human generations, like 10 generations of humans, being able to mess with their DNA within 2 years of messing with them, which was like maybe a span of 10 generations because of that. I don't know. but they had figured it out. It says that they defiled all creation, begot giants and monstrous creatures, corrupted all the earth, which was defiled by bloodshedding at the hands of the giants. But this did not suffice them. They were seeking all the time to devour and destroy many, much more. And the monsters attacked all creation. So I think about this, remember this picture of Shiva or whatever, that Kali or whatever it was that's being depicted there, just eating, yeah. What would, I mean, how do you satiate a giant's appetite if you can't grow enough food and you've eaten all the animals around you, what's your next choice? What choice would they have? Well, I'm just going to say this is probably a time where the giants become troubled because of some dreams and visions that they start to have. And this is what the latter part of the book of Giants begins to talk about. They're big dreams. I mean, they're catastrophic dreams. And so one of the giants, his name is Mawe, reports his dream to the rest of the giants. It's like, guys, come in. We're having a council here. We need to talk. I had this dream. And what did he see? He sees this tablet inscribed with a bunch of names. So a lot of names, you can see it on the tablet. You can see that they're all names. And the tablet is immersed into water. And then when it comes up out of the water, what's really strange is that only 3 names remain. So all the others disappear. They, like ink, they just washed off. And so what we would typically interpret that to be is it symbolizes the death of all on earth, because it has all these different names, except Noah and his sons. So that's kind of what one thought is what that means. And then as he goes to talk to the others about the dream, and it says, this vision is caused for cursing and sorrow, said the group. I, said Mawe, am the one who will be blamed by most of the whole group of those cast down out of heaven. And I shall have to go to hear the spirits of the slain complaining about their killers and crying out that we shall all die together and be made an end of. And I am sleeping and dreaming, bread and dwelling will be denied me. So troubled with this vision, the monster entered into the gathering of the giants. So as he's recalling here how he's even concerned that all the victims of the giants, that he's going to have to bear the burden of the curse of the slain. And he'll hear their voices continually crying out against him. And that in this dream, he's so concerned, knowing that only 3 names remain, that they're all going to die together. And so then remember Hoya? Oh yeah. Spoke without trembling to Mawe. He says, who showed you all this vision, my brother? Barakel, my father, was with me. So it was like maybe Barakel is corroborating, that his father corroborates, maybe had a shared experience of the same vision. It's possible that happened. And then before he's even able to finish telling what he sees in the dream, Oya said to him, now I've heard wonders. If a barren woman gives birth, that would be an equal wonder. Wait, pause, record scratch. Okay, stop right there. Mawe says if a barren woman gives birth, that would be an equal wonder. That gives me pause to think. Is that even something that is prophetic that's being said, talking about perhaps Mary? I know she wasn't barren, but who else was barren among the patriarchs and the matriarchs? Sarah, she was barren until she gave birth to Isaac, and Rachel was barren for a period of time. So we know that there's a theme of this. And then wouldn't it be a wonder if one who's barren then gives birth? Well, they would certainly know because of all the genetic intermingling that they were doing. And it goes on and it says, thereupon Oyah said to Haya, are we to be destroyed upon the earth? When they had finished discussing the dreams, both Oyah and Haya wept before the assembled giants and monsters. So apparently this dream, like it totally rocked their world, And then it goes on. It says, use your strength, the group counseled. Then Oyah said to Haya, this doom is not for us, but for Azazel. After all, he showed the most corruption to humanity. And the good angels, talking about the good angels, surely will not let all their loved ones, that is the giants and the monsters, be neglected, like destroyed. We're not to be cast down. And so we have this stuff going, this banter going back and forth. I mean, surely this can't be. But wait a minute. Then we have Gilgamesh. You've heard Gilgamesh before, right? Well, he comes in and he says, I am a giant, and by my mighty strength in my arm, I can vanquish anyone mortal. I have made war with them, talking about the mortals, in the past, but I am not now able to stand against my opponents who reside in heaven and dwell in holy places. And not only this, but they are in fact stronger than I am. The day of the ravening wild beast has come, and that of the wild man, as I am known. So, okay, Gilgamesh. He gives us another hint, another thing for us to ponder on. The very fact that he wasn't afraid of any mortal, and the very fact that he said his only opponents were those who reside in heaven and dwell in holy places. Now, last week I was talking about this because we talked about what happens to the soul or the spirit, so to speak, of the fallen angels, because there's not a place in heaven, I'll use that term if you let me, for them, and there's not really a place that they are banished to, so to speak, until the judgment. And so they are the spirits or the souls of these giants are left to roam the earth, and they are evil. And we think about how in our time we have those that are oppressed by demonic spirits being the spirits of the giants. And it says, it's very interesting that his opponents that he's not able to stand against are those that reside in heaven. So think about who resides in heaven. Aren't we called to live in heavenly places, in those heavenly realms? In other words, aren't we supposed to be dimensional beings that even though we are physically terrestrial, yet we have a component of us that connects to the spiritual, and which connects us to Yah? And it says, and in holy places. So this, Yeshua said, I came to, I go to prepare a place for you, for in my Father's house there are many mansions. And would that not be that if we, as Paul talks about, that we are the temple of Yah, then therefore we are a holy place, And so therefore that which can stand up against these opponents are when we dwell in holiness. That's our weapon. The weapon of our warfare really comes down to this whole connection of where do we reside, and do we carry the holiness of Yah, so that there is no place for that which is left over from these creatures to come and torment us or oppress us or influence us and influence through us, so to speak. So just some thoughts, but I think it connects. I think it does. And you think about the blood of Yeshua and the washing of the water of the word. And we've been talking about the waters of purification and what they're used for. And what these amazing tools that Yah has given us. So it's not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says Yahweh. So Oya goes on and said, I have been forced to have a dream. The sleep of my eyes vanished so that I could see a vision. Well, we're almost out of time. Now I know that on a field of battle we cannot win. And so I know that on the field of battle we cannot win. It's talking about, referring back to Gilgamesh. And he describes his vision here. Oh, I'm going to have to cut it off. So I saw a tree uprooted, except for 3 of its roots while I was there and was watching. And some beings, talking about maybe the good angels, moved all the roots into the ground, but not the 3. So now we have another allusion to the 3, like in the other aspect that we were talking about earlier with the tablet that had all the names that was put and immersed in the water and came up, and only 3 names remained. So now we have a tree that's uprooted, and these good angels put the tree back into the ground except for 3 roots. So now we have this another connection. We're going to talk about next week. We're going to bring Enoch into it a little bit more, and maybe pull out some things out of Enoch that might connect some more dots. Very interesting. Did you like that today? I find it really interesting. But what we know from these writings, they give us more light to the realm that we're walking in. So I do want to say this and say thank you. It's good to see every one of you all in the chat. Like, share, subscribe. Give us a thumbs up and send it over and put that in. Share it if you think someone would find this interesting. Share it. And that would be good. Let them know about Life of Worship. Join us on Shabbat at Life of Worship at 12 Central, and for the Torah portion, and at 3 we have our encounter service, praise, worship, ministry, and a message, and we love for you to be part of that as well. And so, with all that said, shalom, shalom.